As you know that a lot of people have been working behind the scenes over the past few days in respect of the various measures that need to be taken, and indeed there needs to be organized behind the scenes. As you know, our Honourable Prime Minister is also out in the field now. But over the past couple of days, I've met up with some of the financial institutions. As you know that we met up with the Association of Banks in Fiji 2 days ago. And we obviously talked to them about the damage that's been caused, the devastating impact of the Cyclone Winston, not just on individual homes and lives, which is very, very tragic. As you know, a very high number of deaths have occurred, in excess of 40 people. Individual homes have been damaged, some of them completely destroyed. Livelihoods have been destroyed. So we did talk to the banks about that and the impact on the financial sector, and we've also asked them to come up with a particular product that could be attractive for individuals to help them recover. And as you know, as announced by the Honourable Prime Minister, the details now of course have been released by the Association of Banks today, where a maximum loan of unsecured loan amount is now being made available at an interest rate of 4.5%, which is probably the lowest we've ever had in respect of having unsecured personal loans. The loan period will be for a period of 5 years, so that makes it a very reasonable time to make your repayments. And there'll be a waiver of the loan application fees. And of course it is applicable to people who have been affected by the cyclone itself. The offer period is for 3 months. It's available for 3 months for those people who want to apply. So we'd like to thank the Association of Banks for that. Just early on, before you arrived, we had a meeting with the Insurance Council, with all the insurance companies, including all the insurance brokers, because there seems to be a lot of misinformation that, even if you had cyclone insurance, that it won't be covered. That's not true. We've been given the reassurance by the insurance companies that if you have a insurance cover for your home that covers for cyclone, irrespective of the category of the cyclone, you will still be covered, as long as of course you had the engineer's certificate. That is very critical. What is also very important to note, also there are some people, for example, who a fence may have fallen down. The cyclone cover, it does not extend to the fence, as long as it's anything that is attached to the certified building, covered under the engineer's certification, that will be covered. They have not had that many claims so far, from what we understand, but nonetheless they've given us that assurance. We've also said to them that as a council they need to come together as part of the financial sector to offer more to help ordinary Fijians, and we look forward to an announcement from them within the next 24 hours or so, for them to come together as an industry. Also at the same time, as has already been announced by the Fijian National Provident Fund, that those individuals who have been affected by the cyclone and are members of FNPF are eligible to withdraw $1,000, and the various processes of that has been expedited. We've had some instances where some non-members have turned up to withdraw money. Please understand, it's only applicable for people who are members of Fijian National Provident Fund. There's also an amount of $5,000 that's available to individuals who want to, for example, carry out some quick repairs to their properties. As you know, in some instances, some roofs have been slightly damaged, or other parts of the building. And then, of course, if your home has been completely damaged and you want an amount that's a lot more than $5,000, that's also applicable or available from Fiji National Provident Fund. Government has also made the announcement, ladies and gentlemen, we've now sort of extended that for donations that come from overseas. There won't be any duty charged, there won't be any VAT charged on any of these donations that come from overseas, as long as you have a letter from the NDMO or also from the Ministry of Finance. So we've extended that now, so if they write directly to the Ministry of Finance, we can give them that waiver. It's very important to ensure that we control it at the border, but we've made it a lot more relaxed. We also are not necessarily confining it only to a few items. It's generally, as long as it is for distribution purposes, and the organization or groups of people who are sending it are bona fide donors, those goods will be allowed. But as you know, some homes have, they've got nothing left. So we are not saying it should only be food or clothes. It obviously can be other items that is used in any household, including furniture, including even somebody wants to donate a television set. All of that will be allowed as long as it is delivered to those people who need it. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, our entire focus has been in terms of making these arrangements behind the scene to address the very fundamental issues that are facing ordinary Fijians in terms of their ability to stand up on their feet very quickly and to give them that level of assistance that they require. Quite ironically, just a few days ago, prior to the cyclone, the IMF, many of you may not have read it, but it's available on their website. IMF released a report, an Article 4, the assessment of the Fijian economy, and it was very, very glowing. It said that the trajectory that Fiji was on was in a very good trajectory, and of course they were forecasting a very good growth rate for Fiji, and that the government had been engaging in policies that was setting a very solid foundation in terms of setting up a very good economic base for Fiji, and not just now but into the future. Of course, the cyclone Winston will have an impact on the economy. Cyclones, as you know, generally have a tendency of slowing down economic growth because people are not at their full potential. Nonetheless, it is our responsibility, it is the responsibility of government and every person in Fiji, every company in Fiji, to ensure that we are able to recover as quickly as possible. So that requires a national approach in terms of policy building, in terms of making some sacrifices, in terms of realignment of resources, to be able to ensure that we direct the resources to the best possible areas where we get more or bigger multiplier effect. And that is very, very critical. So for example, you can spend $1 million in one area, but it may have an impact of, say, engaging only 5 companies to spend the $1 million. Alternatively, you may spend the same $1 million, but you may actually engage 20 companies. So the multiplier effect from that perspective needs to be not just applicable to the number of people you use, but also the number of people who get affected by it. So we're looking at various policy measures at this stage to see how best we can get that trajectory back on. One, of course, a critical area is, which is very critical and which can bring about very quick dividends, is of course the tourism industry. The tourism industry is very, very critical to the Fijian economy. As you know, it contributes about 35% towards our GDP. And what will actually happen, as you know, and we are lucky in that sense, the majority of the resorts in Fiji are operational. Majority of the resorts in Fiji received some superficial damage, some received damages that in fact could be fixed up within a week or so. So those resorts are operational. And as you know, Danarau is operational. Many of the other resorts in the Western Division are operational. Some, of course, for example, 1 or 2 resorts we know in the Mamanudas have been affected, the Tokariki, Sheraton. And then, of course, resorts up in Vanuatu, around Savu-Savu, Taveuni area. But the others are operational. And the best way that we can, of course, our friends in Australia and New Zealand and various other countries, the best way that they can help us, apart from, of course, the aid that they're giving us, is to keep visiting Fiji. We had also, ironically, the highest ever recorded number of tourists in the month of January too, just this January. So the idea is to maintain that momentum. There is no need for people to cancel their holidays. There is no need for any adverse travel advisories from many of these countries, because as you know that there is no diseases, there is no illnesses, the hotels are operational, and we like people to come back and not cancel their holidays and visit Fiji again. That would be a very critical point as far as we are concerned in terms of economic recovery. We would also like to take this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to thank many of our donors who have contributed to the economy. There are, for example, as highlighted yesterday, in terms of international pledges in cash, about $7.65 million. That includes the $2 million US grant from ADB that is going to be given to us this weekend. We have the Vice President of ADB coming into the country this weekend, and we'll be meeting up with the Vice President of the Western Division. The Indian government, as you know, has also given $1 million US in cash, and this makes up the bulk of the 7.65 million Fijian dollars. Others, of course, have given aid in kind, which totals approximately $17 million. And then we have the Fijian business community that has also given a number of donations, cash in kind. Cash in kind so far, Fiji Airways, as you know, gave $1 million to the Prime Minister's Relief Fund. Others have given donations. There are many. Some are small companies. We have companies like, Tambara Meats has given $50,000. They've just pledged $50,000. Others have pledged smaller amounts. Others have pledged bigger amounts. We have other companies like Punjas and CJ Patel and Asha Bahai and various other companies that have pledged food packs. Vodafone has also, through their foundation, given food packs, and this is, of course, most welcome, and we'd like to thank all of them. We'll be giving out a list of all the companies and individuals that have donated funds later on. We'll, of course, like to acknowledge the logistical support by countries like Australia and New Zealand. As you know, have provided air support, and also the lift that's required to go to what we call deep rural areas, and also the maritime areas where the traveling time is obviously fastened once you have air travel on that. We also would like to acknowledge that all the airports in all the islands are now operational. So aircraft can actually land on those islands wherever we had airstrips. So that's all open. Regarding, of course, some of the critical infrastructure issues we've looked at is, as you know, FEA is the utility company or utility service that got hit the hardest. As they were saying from the aerial photographs, you could see that there were more, you could count more that were up as opposed to those that were down. There were so many that were down in terms of the major transmission lines and the poles that held that up. And as a result of which, some parts of Fiji, including Ba onwards, won't be able to get electricity for about 6 weeks. And that, of course, has an impact, a multiply impact on people's ability to store food, and of course in terms of businesses. Somebody with an ice cream business will be impacted almost directly, because these are the kind of things that have an impact on people's livelihoods. So all of the utility companies are focusing on that. In terms of, we've been asked about what's the amount of damage in the dollar terms. It is, of course, very, very difficult at this stage to give an exact figure in terms of damages, but you can very easily say, if you take into account the number of homes in all over Fiji that have been damaged or completely demolished, if you look at the impact on agriculture in terms of crops that are in the ground that have been damaged or under the ground, the ability to plant, ability of people's to earn a income, and of course the impact on the power lines. You can easily say it's $1 billion so far. So these are some of the, and of course some of the jetties that have been impacted upon. There have been some temporary measures that have been put in place in Savu and Nambualu to be able to get things on and off. But they need, of course, a long-term solution, a long-term repair to these areas. So ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the things that has been happening, and we wanted to give you an assessment in terms of some of the financial impact and some of the dollars and cents that we are looking at. There is, of course, an opportunity in this, but we first of all must be able to assist the ordinary Fijians to help them get up on their feet. There are some areas, of course, where people have not been able to get to them as yet, and we have teams that are going out For example, today the Honorable Prime Minister is up in Ra. There are various other DISMAC teams all over Fiji. There are teams, of course, that are going to Vanuatu, to Lomaiviti, various islands there, and of course in Vanuatu too. So with that in mind, we'd like to, of course, urge all the business houses to come together, give their contribution, and we're working with all stakeholders in the economy to ensure that we're able to get back on our feet very, very quickly, and to be able to, for all of us to understand, in particular those of us who weren't affected by the cyclone itself, to feel for the individuals. As somebody was telling us that when you go to some of these places, people are really at a loss. There's a trauma that's of course involved when you have your entire house demolished. You don't have any dry clothes, you don't have any food, you don't have any shelter, and of course the trauma that something so devastating can actually affect you individually. So I think for all of us it's a time to focus and come together as a nation to ensure that we're able to help these individuals to get back with their lives, and also to provide them with some long-term solutions. We have categorized about 5 groups of people in respect of housing issues. Of course, you have high-income people who have insurance policies. They're able to get insurance from them. Then you have the second category of people who may be low to medium income families who may have insurance or who may not have insurance, but they may need assistance. That assistance, of course, can come through the banks. The Reserve Bank of Fiji has also offered now an interest rate of 0.5% to banks for them to be able to offer loans, not just to small to medium businesses, but also to individuals by way of home loans at no more than 4.5% to the customer. So, somebody who may be earning $14,000, who may have a house in Waiavi in Lautoka and the roof's blown or partially blown off, they can go to the banks and get a loan at these concessional rates. So that is also another negotiation that we've had in the past couple of days, and the banks have agreed to that, and the Reserve Bank has agreed to lend these monies to the banks at 0.5%. So that's the second category of people. The third category of people, of course, are those people whose homes have been damaged. And we're literally looking at thousands of homes here whose homes have been damaged, but they are not in deep rural areas, or nor are they in the maritime areas. They are close by. They may be living in the Lautoka, Mba, Tavua, and Tavua Rakiraki corridor, who that we can get to quite easily. We're looking at a mechanism of perhaps as to how to assist them, and we'll be giving you more details. All of this, of course, is subject to the number of homes that we find that are damaged. Then, of course, there are the other category of people who live in deep rural areas and also maritime areas. They're not close by to a hardware store. So they need to be assisted a lot more differently in terms of more sort of tangible way of, for example, building their homes for them. And you would have already seen advertised in the Fiji Sun in the past couple of days, calling for expressions of interest for construction companies to build, put in expression of interest to build homes to a particular specification. There was a particular design that was done by the Ministry of Natural Disaster Management, and those homes actually that were built in the last cyclone actually stood the strength of this cyclone. So obviously the design is very good. So we're looking for a similar design or something close to it. So we call for expression of interest. So a lot of that background work is being done. Of course, then you have the fifth category of people who may be squatters and living on, in sort of Vakavanua arrangements who have had their homes damaged. So there's another category of people we need to look at assisting. There have been, of course, other businesses. Most businesses have had the insurance policies in place, so they are covered in respect of that. The banks have also agreed that those businesses or those individuals who may be affected, who may, for example, not be able to go to work on time, or who may fall behind in their repayments, that they will go easy on them. The banks have agreed on that. Of course, there are people who may, for example, be have a loan and be doing a loan repayment because they say in the fishing business, or they run an agricultural business, or they may be into a livelihood that has been impacted upon by the cyclone, and they may not be able to do the repayments on time, so banks have agreed to give them grace and to be able to understand that these are the unusual set of circumstances. We've been given that assurance by the banks. Of course, we're thankful for that. It does only make sense to have that approach in place. Otherwise, you could have foreclosures all over the place. It does not benefit anybody at all. So it is very critical, ladies and gentlemen, so that we have a stock take of where we are, and that over the next few days again we'll be making some announcements in respect of some of the packages that we may offer, in particular regarding homes, and we'll be able to best do that once we are able to get a better understanding of how many homes have been damaged altogether. Again, the message is, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to come together. We need to be able to ensure that we get many of our day-to-day activities up and running as quickly as possible. The one quick one, of course, is tourism, and we're trying to get utilities into various other places where it will ensure that people can go back to their work, and start earning a living, and to be able to then we can focus on some of the other more medium-term assistance that we can provide to them.